Hello and welcome to Painting the Geeks. This is a Let's Paint video for Imperial Assault, and we're doing the Imperial probe droids today. If you watch the unbox video, you'll notice one of these was broken. I just used some Games Workshop glue to stick it back to its base. I did consider putting it on a flying stand, which would also be cool and it would differentiate them, but I decided just to go, I think it was that one actually. See where the glue's just set around his foot. I decided just to stick him back on actually, so they all look more similar, and flying might be a bit crazy, but you know, if you want to try that, that'd be cool. I'd love to see anyone who's done that with these. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to tidy these up. Let's take a quick look. There's not, first glance, there's not a lot that needs tidying up on these ones. The lenses do, those bits. They need a bit of a tidy up, just smooth them down. And that, and this one anyway, that's about it. This is a pretty good cast actually. Yeah, cool. So, I'm just going to clean them up. I'm going to use the old-fashioned scraper to do that, I think. I don't think I'll need the knife, but I'll let you know if I do, and I shall be back with you once they're done. Okay, so these are a pretty good cast. There was literally just a few bits on the lenses and a couple of bits on the legs that needed taking off. So that's pretty good. So next thing I'm going to do is undercoat these. I'm going to use Chaos Black. If you have Leadbelcher or any kind of silver spray, I know Army Painter does a pretty good silver spray as well, but the Games Workshop Leadbelcher would be good as well, the new one they've done. You could use that on this and that will cut you out the next stage I'm going to do, but I'm going to do these in black and build it up from there, because it will be a little bit darker then, and plus you'll get to see, well, a bit more, because just spray them in silver, well, that'll be a bit easier I think, and then we'll be stuck with that silver as the base coat. But these are a bit darker. If I remember from the film, they're kind of a metallic and black sort of colour. If I remember from the beginning of Empire where Han and Chewie shoot one. So I'm going to spray these and then I shall be back with you. Okay, so the probe droids have now been undercoated in Chaos Black. There we go. So the next phase, unless you've used Leadbelcher, is to actually paint Leadbelcher on. So there's Leadbelcher. I'm going to want a nice big brush for this. I'm on a base coat brush. I'm just going to pretty much cover the model. A good shake. And we're going to pretty much cover the whole model in this stuff. So I'll be back in a moment. Okay, so we're going to pretty much just kind of dry brush this whole thing on, like so. So we get pretty good coverage like that. I'll leave plenty of the undercoat showing now, because I want it to be pretty dark, which is the reason why I haven't personally sprayed it in Leadbelcher. And these guys should be fairly straightforward to paint. Having had a look at a few pictures of them, they are pretty much they're not quite Leadbelcher colour, they're a bit sort of greyer, but the whole thing seems to be very similar in colour. There's not much variation on them. The lenses themselves are a red colour, a very dark red colour. So that's one dry brushed, and so I'm going to do the other two and I shall be back with you. So that's all three of them done, and the next stage is to apply, once it's dry, and make sure it is dry, a sort of heavy layer of NULN oil on these guys, because I want to darken that down again now. So I'll wait for them to dry and then we'll apply that. Okay, so the first wash on these guys is going to be a heavy wash of NULN oil. I'm probably going to end up doing 2 coats of this once it's dry, so it will take a little while. So there is the first one done, and yeah, it's still a bit light, so it's probably going to do another coat of that. There we go. this needs to dry fully before we move on to the next stage. So I'll finish this off and then I should be back with you once they're dry. Okay, so the Imperial Probe Droids have dried, and what we're actually going to do is another layer of non-oil to darken down even more. So exactly as I did before, just going over the same thing, and it'll turn out to hopefully be a bit darker than it is now. Okay, so the next stage, I'm going to take some Runefang steel, and we're going to do a little dry brush. We're just going to do the legs, well, antennae, whatever they're meant to be, hands, the bits that are hanging down. I'm going to do a light dry brush across them, so it's just going to be these parts here, just to bring these out. I'm not going to do the top part, we're just going to leave that as it is. Like so. So I'm going to do that on all three of them, and then I'm also going to just paint a little bit of Runefang steel on those little antennae that are going up. I should be back with you. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do on these guys, I'm going to paint the lenses. So to start, I'm going to go over all the lenses as they are. I'm going to go over them in Abaddon black. So we've got a dark colour to start with. Let's give that a shake. And then I'm just going to go over all the lenses that are on top of the probe droid. So obviously these large lenses here, they need to be gone over. But also there's these smaller lenses as you go around. So they're all going to be done the same. So I just need to go over all of them in black, like that. So we're back with you when that's done. Okay, so now the black is dry, what we're actually going to do is we're going to do a mix of Abaddon black and Khorne red. So, just did a quick, still drying, sort of guide as to what I intend to do. So I want to start with black, as we have done, and then the top corner, if you can just see that, which is still wet, is going to be done in a mix, a 50-50 mix of Abaddon black and Khorne red. This is a very crude sort of quick thing I did, just so you can see it on the camera. And then we're going to go with Khorne red, like a line of Khorne red above that mix, followed by a little bit of white scar in a line, and a little dot of white scar there. So it's a bit like you'd paint a gem on the Eldar, or like on the Space Marine, or anything else but you paint a gem on, or a lens. But that's basically what we're going to do, those 4 stages. And then I'll finish off, I'll see how it looks. I might give it a glaze of Bloodletter, but we'll see how it looks when we get that. So the first stage is to do a 50-50 mix of Khorne red and Abaddon black. And then we're going to go over these lenses, just painting the top part in sort of a, not so a crescent moon, but slightly fuller crescent moon, if you will. So it goes in a circle, following the way the lens goes. So I shall do that, and I shall be back with you to show you what I've done. Okay, so the 50-50 mix is on. I'm not sure if the camera is picking that up very well, but it has moved from that sort of status to that sort of status on the second thing there. So the next one is just to do Khorne red. There we go. And we're just going to go over the edge of it, just like that, so that it picks up the light. I'm sorry for knocking the camera there. So if I do one, you kind of get the idea. So you want the finest brush you've got really to do this. Kind of like that. There you go. So that's not bad. On the small lenses you might end up just doing the whole lens in this colour. Doesn't really matter that much on the small lenses, but on the bigger lenses you want to have this glistening effect. Depends on how good your skills are and how small your brush is, to be fair. I'm just using the Games Workshop Fine Detail brush. That one. which will soon become obsolete because there's new Games Workshop brushes coming out. You won't be able to get these anymore, but the new ones do look a lot better. But we'll get to that another time. So I'm going to repeat this process on all of these. Okay, so that's done. Hopefully you can see that on that one in particular. There we go. And there. So the last stage, well, perhaps, see if it looks, is the white scar, which is to do, if you go back to this little guide I did in the dry, you see there's like a line across where the red part was, which is there, and with a little dot, just to show reflection at the bottom. And if you've ever painted gems, you'll know what you're doing with this. If you've ever painted lenses, if you haven't, that white is the key, because that's the thing that makes it jump out at you. If you've done it right, when you look at it after you've done the light, you go, whoa, because it really does look 3D. And I was very impressed the first time I ever tried this. That was my impression from it, and I've always used it since. Same sort of guide, and I really like it. So I'm going to paint the white scar on now. Give that a good shake. And again, you want the smallest brush you've got. And I should be back in a second. Okay, so I've actually got the Wargamer Army Painter Wargamer Insane Detail brush for this. So that's approximately what you're going for, followed by a little speck at the bottom. So I need to repeat that across the 3 models and all the lenses, so I'm going to do that and I shall be back with you. Okay, so that's the white done, so if you can see that on there. On the small lenses, a single speck will do. And then on the bigger lenses we've used the gem effect, if you will. So in order to make it shinier, there's 2 things you can do. Just varnish it over the top of that, which would look great, or you can use Bloodletter glaze. So I'm going to attempt to use Bloodletter glaze and see how that looks. So here's Bloodletter glaze. There it is. Very orangey looking. So I'm going to use this and I'm going to see how it looks basically. So this is the first time I've done this, I haven't done a test on it or anything. So we've got our glaze there, and we'll just use a normal size brush for this, because we're just going to cover the whole lens in this. Now I have to wait for it to dry to see how it looks. So it's just a case of going into the lens and putting it where you want it, because the glaze kind of stays where you put it. It's not like a wash, it doesn't run as much, and you can put too much of a glaze on, so you've got to be careful, unlike a wash. So there we go. It makes that go very pink, so we'll see what happens, see if I regret doing this or not. So there is the glaze on one of them. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to wait for that to dry and I'll see how it looks, and I'll make a decision whether I'm going to repaint that or go with the glaze. Okay, so once it had dried, I decided I liked the glaze, so I did the glaze on all the others, and it's given this red glow effect that I really like. It's worked pretty well. At this stage I could also re-highlight the white if I wanted to, and I might do that, but I've not decided yet. But the next thing I'm going to do is actually the legs, arms, whatever they are, the appendages. I think they're a bit too light now, and I also want to add a bit of variation in there. Going back to have a look at some of the pictures, some of them look quite rusty as well. So not completely rusty, where rust's actually on them, but just dirty and grimy. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use Agrax Earth. There it is, the shade. And I'm just going to go over the legs and sort of darken them down a little bit with this brown, just to give a different tone on the model. I'm going to see how that works. Okay, so there are the probe droids, and they're essentially done. All that's left now to do is the bases, and if you've watched the Stormtrooper video, it's exactly the same thing we're going to do with the bases. And then we're also going to do the markings on the actual probe droids themselves. We'll get the bases done first, just like I did with the Stormtroopers. And we're going to use Mechanicus Standard Grey. And I'm just going to cover all three of their bases in this, and obviously we've got to do one of them as an elite. So I'll be back with you once I've covered the bases. Okay, so the bases are now done. I've used Khorne red around the edge of that base to make him into the elite one. So if you've watched the Stormtrooper and E-Web Trooper video, you'll see I've used these three colours to denote the squads. I'm going to be consistent and use these as well. So we've got Yriel yellow, Mephiston red and Caledor sky. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to paint the lights around the midsection of these guys. I'm going to see how that looks and see if I'm quite happy with that when I'm done. So I'm going to do one with that, I'm going to do one with that, and one with that in the middle. So the elite will be red. So if you look on there, you'll see, hopefully, there are areas which will be lit up. So I'm going to go and paint them now, one in each colour, and I shall be back with you when I've done that. Okay, so I've done that now. Let's show you these guys. So there's the yellows on that one. Got the reds on that. Now we've got the blues on there. So hopefully it's pretty clear which one belongs to, well, which card when you mark them, as to which one is which. Obviously if you're doing this, there's no need to actually denote elite status by painting the edge of the base. If you don't want to do that and you want them all the same, you can easily just you know, put the red one as the elite one anyway on the card that you've got. You don't really need to paint the edge of the base as well as do all the squad markings, but I like it that way. It kind of intimidates your foe, going, oh no, there's an elite coming. So I like that. So they're pretty much done. Because these are lights that I've painted, you could then highlight them again, a bit like we did with the lenses. And you can also use inks on them as well to tone them down. I might do that on the yellow actually. I might use a sepia just to tone the yellow down a little bit. But I do want them to be quite visible as well, so I don't want to tone them down too much. I want them to be easily distinguished. So there we go. Yeah, I'm going to leave it there I think. So I'm going to use a bit of sepia on the yellow and then it'll be done. So I'll not bother showing you that because that's pretty straightforward and you'll probably know how to do that anyway. So that is the Imperial Probe Droid video done. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope if you haven't liked and subscribed already, you will subscribe to the channel. And I hope you join me again for some more Let's Paints and other videos that we do. So thanks for watching, and bye for now.